All right, and now that we have an instance of our PDO database connection, now let's go ahead and define the method that will handle our database transactions. So let's start with the create method. So we'll go public function create, and this method will take an array of data to be inserted to the database and the table to insert the data to. Okay, now before I even proceed with this method, let's just have a look at the syntax for inserting data to the database using PDO prepared statements. All right, so this is the syntax. So here we have an instance of our PDO database connection, and next up we construct a SQL statement and pass the columns and the placeholders to the insert statement, and then we prepare the SQL statements, and then we finally execute the SQL statement. All right, so what we want to do inside our create method is we want to write this code in a way that's reusable, right? So we don't want to have, we don't want to rewrite, we don't want to construct the SQL insert statement every time we want to insert the data to the database. We want to write one piece of code that will allow us to like reusable code that will allow us to just pass an array of data and then construct a SQL statement based on that array of data, and then finally execute the SQL statement by passing the array of data to be inserted to whatever table we specify. All right, so if I'm not making sense right now, let's just dive into the code, and hopefully by the time we finish writing this method, everything will make perfect sense. All right. All right, so what we want to do here is from this array of data that's passed as a parameter, we want to construct this insert statement. Let me just show you what this data array will look like by the way. So this is an example of this data array. So we're working with a blog. So let's say we want to insert data into the post table. So in the post table we have a post title, which could be, let's just say, test, and we've got post content, and let's just say test content. All right, okay, so this is an example of what this data array would look like. Let me just comment it out just so that we know that, okay, it is an example. Okay, so based on this array, we want to construct columns, these columns, and placeholders, these placeholders. All right, and want to concatenate these into the insert statement. All right, and pass the table that's passed as a parameter into the insert statement. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So to construct columns, we're gonna use a method that's given to us by PHP, the implode method. So I want to implode this array. And this means that want to separate the values by a comma. All right, so if you don't understand this, I'll just you'll understand it just now. I'll just fat dump this so you see what we're doing. Okay, and want to implode it on array keys. All right, now let's just fat dump this so we see what's going on. Right, back to our test script. on our test script, want to go ahead and call the create method. So this is how you call a method from a class, by the way, for those of you who are new in object-oriented programming. All right, so let's just copy this. Oh, you know what? And let's just say data array equals that, and wanna pass the data array. This for testing purposes, by the way, so that we see what we're doing. And the table, let's just say the table is posts for now. All right, now if we go ahead and test, let's run our test script. All right, see what it's giving us. So it's giving us the array keys. So we want to use this as columns and append them to this SQL insert statement. All right, so it's giving us the array keys separated by a comma, and if I add one new key here, let's just say date created, let's say 2021 720304. Now we should have, see, we have now one more key. All right, so what we want to do now is we want to take these array keys and append them, this string actually, because this is just a string of columns. All right, we want to append it to our SQL insert statement. All right, so let's just comment this out. All right, now that we have the columns, let's go ahead and construct the placeholders for our query. This part. All right, and again, want to do the same thing, and we just want to prefix now the columns with that, I don't know what's that called, it's a semicolon. No, it's not a semicolon, but I don't know what it's called, but we want to prefix the columns with this. All right, so we want to say place holders, and you know what, let me just copy and paste this code to avoid typos and errors. All right, now let's go ahead and add some the placeholders so we see what we're doing. Post undefined variable, post title. All right, what's happening? Let's see, line 27. Oh, need to remove that. Okay, now it's giving us again the array keys, this time prefixed with that. I want to call it a semicolon, but it's not a semicolon. So now we have the placeholders. We have the placeholders and the columns for our query. Now we can go ahead and construct our SQL insert statement. All right. Let's just remove that. That was just for testing purposes. All right. Now we want to construct our SQL statements. Right, and again, let's just further down the statements. So what we're doing here is we're constructing a SQL statement saying insert into the table, that's passed as a parameter, and we pass the columns, which we constructed dynamically based on the array keys, and we pass the placeholders as well. So we're constructing so we're constructing this SQL statement, but we're doing it dynamically, all right? So that we won't have to rewrite this code whenever we want to insert data into the database, all right? So we want to write reusable code. So that's the whole point of object-oriented programming. All right, again, let's fire down the SQL statement. And let's refresh. And you see now we now have a full SQL statement that's constructed based on the array keys and the table that's passed as a parameter. Okay, now that we have the SQL statements, we need to prepare it. Remember, from this syntax, we need to prepare it using our instance of our PDO database connection. All right, so remember I said this con property holds an instance of our PDO database connection. Now in object-oriented programming, whenever you want to access a property, you always prefix it with this keyword. So I want to say this con prepare, and want to pass the SQL statements and want to assign that to a statement. I want to say this is a statement. Okay, so now we're doing this part of the syntax. So we're doing this part now of our insert statement, so of our query. All right. All right, now that we've prepared the query, now we can go ahead and execute it. Now this is the part now that will actually insert the data to the database. Whatever data we passed here will now be inserted to the DB. Okay, now this part is this part of our logic. All right, and want to, whenever we insert data to the DB, always want to return the last insert ID. All right, so want to get the ID of the item that we just inserted. All right, so I can just comment this out because this is for testing purposes. All right, so that is our create method of our CRUD class. So I hope you guys understand what's going on here. So trying to avoid having to rewrite an insert statement every time we want to insert data to the DB, right? So what we've done here is we've constructed a method that will just allow us to run an insert statement just by passing a data array and the table to insert that data to. So this code is completely reusable, so we'll always call this method now whenever we want to insert data to the database. All right, by the way, in the next section of the course we're going to be testing this method, all right, just to be sure that it works and it can actually insert the data to the DB. All right.